Hi there, fellow Belgian public servant, fonctionnaire, ambtenaren, or other people who work daily in order to make our public services better.
Welcome to the Public Service Adventure podcast, where we travel through the land of complicated processes, obscure acronyms, and invisible accountability.
I'm Evert.
And I'm Alix.
And with a good dose of humility and optimism, the Public Service Adventure podcast is our weapon, our magical artifact to elevate the quality of public services in Belgium.
Let's go. Our guest today is Sandrine Daoud, who works in the public service, but in a different way than Evert and I. Her office is at 23 Rue de la Loi, Weststraat. And no, she doesn't work in an administration, but in a cabinet. Not the kind that holds your coffee cups.
Or your magical potions, evidently, because we're adventurers.
But the kind that shape policies. She focuses on helping make Belgians healthier.
And more social.
She's a French speaker working for a Flemish minister at the federal level. Have you guessed it?
Sandrine, where do you work? Tell us.
Hello everyone, I work for Frank van den Broeke, Minister of Health at federal level in Belgium.
It's health and social affairs.
Health and social affairs, indeed.
Yeah, that's the social joke. You know?
If you have to explain your joke, Evert.
Yes.
Sandrine, can you tell us a bit more what you do specifically for Minister van den Broeke?
Well, I am in the health department. I'm an adviseur, conseillère. So I give advice to the minister on different dossiers and some different subjects. I'm also, from the previous legislation, responsible for the French-speaking communication of the minister. So I'm his Franstalige woordvoerster, porte-parole francophone.
And is there a typical day?
Oh, of course not.
Well, another way to say a stupid question.
No, but I'm also not in a typical position here at the cabinet because I am in mixing a job of communication and a job of advice, which is a little bit unusual at the moment. But I'd say from the communication point of view, you read the journals, you listen to the radio, you listen to the TV, try to understand what's in the news today. Also read the room when you're with your colleagues to know what's new within the cabinet today, and then try to make them match, I'd say.
And on the advisor's side?
On the advisor's side, it's a little bit new for me, so it's less obvious for me what a typical day is. You have a certain amount of dossiers that you have to work on. You know from the inside, from talks with the minister, from talks with the cabinet chef, but also from the regeerakkoord, accord de gouvernement, what you should be doing with those dossiers. But there's also a lot of collaboration with the different administrations that know a lot more than me personally about the history of the dossiers. And so with a lot of meetings and emails and telefoontjes, Teams conversation, they also help you follow up where it's needed.
So your liaison with the administrations also, with the different institutions?
Yes, I work very closely with our FOD SPF, with Rizif Inami, but also other like Cienzano, KCE.
I think she needs to know all the acronyms.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All the
and the FAGG, AFMPS.
I mean, just showing off.
I'm just trying to not forget anyone because everyone is so. It's a whole
ecosystem.
It's a whole ecosystem,
Yeah.
exactly. And when I arrived, I found it very difficult to know who's doing what.
Let's speak about that. About when you arrived, because you came from the sector before joining the cabinet, right?
Yes, I was working for an association, the Ligue Cardiologique Belge, Belgische Cardiologische Liga. It's completely independent. It's not funded by the government in any way. At least it was not when I was there. And so the focus is prevention on cardiovascular disease. Non-communicable disease are the first cause of death in our country. So prevention, therefore, is really interesting and important. But yeah, it gave me the taste for healthcare.
Nice. So tell us how you got from that world to the cabinet.
I was actually general manager at this association, and I wanted to do a better job. So I decided to go back to school while working and have a second master's in management of healthcare institutions. So I did that for a year. It was really, really interesting. And during that master's, I had a class over what the government and the federal government especially does for healthcare in Belgium and how it works, how the system works, what's the place of the minister in all of this, and what are the different visions that you can have about healthcare and social affairs in general as a minister. And I realized I am a fan of Frank van den Broeke. I really like his vision. So it's a bit naive, but it's really that. I was in class and I learned about the different policies that Minister van den Broeke was implementing. And I thought, I really want to go and work for the guy. I really liked it.
And that's a place where I can have more impact also on our society. Because you said before it was in the association, it's okay, going back to school, and I'm getting closer to where the decisions are made and where I can influence policy, actually.
Exactly. And I think at the time, a little bit wrongly, I thought the impact will be so much bigger because you're close to the minister. I think now, with a little bit more background on everything and how everything works, I think it's a whole ecosystem again, and everyone has a part to play. But it's true that I find it so interesting to be here, not only where decisions are taken, but where everything is discussed. It's not only about decisions, it's about having the information on every topic. It's so interesting. So yes, that's why I decided to apply here.
And so you come in contact with in a political context, and is it then important if you're a member of the right party, or how does that work when you join a cabinet?
Left party? I'm kidding. No, I was absolutely not in contact with any party at the time. I was not a member of a party. I just wanted to come and work here. So I said so, and they never asked me. I think every minister can choose, actually, but they never asked me to be a part of the party.
Yeah, that's cool. It's just something that I was wondering in any case, but how does that work, actually?
Well, I think, you will never come in a cabinet and work for a minister with whom you don't share at least the basic values. But that doesn't mean that you have to have a card and be really strongly involved in the politics. No, it's policy. It's something different.
Oh, that's cool. In our podcast, we like to look at public service as an adventure, because there are challenges and sometimes there are actually villains, but also hopefully treasures and growth. And so we would like to ask you, could you share with us some of your adventures here?
My main adventure was coming as a Franstalig in a Dutch-speaking, Flemish-speaking cabinet with a Flemish minister. He's a federal minister, of course, but he is Flemish-speaking in the beginning. And I was a little bit afraid, but that was also the point, because I always had the dream of being perfect tweetalig. And I thought, you know what, I'll just do it. I'll just go. I also like a challenge once in a while. But it's not as difficult as I thought it would be. It's challenging, I'm not going to lie. But the first day I thought, nobody will speak French there. It's absolutely not true.
How was your interview? Like your first talks with them, were they in French? Were they in Dutch or in English?
It was in Dutch. The whole time, the person that interviewed me kept on saying, you can speak French if you'd like. But I was like, no, I'm going to speak Dutch because this is why I'm here. But then I know that some other colleagues that I met afterwards who are also French-speaking had their interviews in French. That was fine. So the main thing is you have to understand the question. And the question will be asked in Dutch mainly, and they will try to see during the interview if you can understand the question. But you can always speak in your own language for the answer.
And the work in itself, you have, I think, being an advisor is very much writing notes, writing memos, right? You write them in Dutch?
I choose to write them in Dutch.
Okay.
Yes. But
Because you're stubborn.
No, because that's why I'm here also. I'm here to learn more about healthcare, to learn more about our political system and how it works, and to learn Dutch. That was the three, my three main focuses were these. But I think I could write them in French, also because my minister is perfect tweetalig. So it's not an issue.
And in many of the institutions, there's like federal, in any case, there's a policy, everybody speaks in his own language. Does that actually happen here also during meetings? Because you say, I'm trying really to go for the Dutch, but maybe there's other French speaking, or how does it work now?
Everybody speaks in their own language is a true rule.
Mm-hmm.
You can always try to speak Dutch, even if you're French speaking, just like me. And everybody is so patient. It's actually crazy. So I know that sometimes if we're in a meeting where there's no time and my thoughts are a little bit complex, I don't want to lose everybody's time. So I'll just say it in French. But I'll always start by saying, ik zal het in het Frans zeggen. Als dat oké is. And everybody looks at me like, yeah, that is okay. But I try to do it in Dutch. I have French colleagues who speak in French, and that's absolutely no issue. I also have Dutch-speaking colleagues who will answer in French as a gesture of politeness.
We're like that.
We're like that. No, we speak English.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So, is there ever any English?
Oh no,
No. Okay.
No.
But it's a federal level. Everybody's Dutch and French is good enough that you can have a conversation with sometimes not exactly the right word, but everybody will understand.
Yes. I was a little bit surprised, indeed, that there is absolutely no English in my working life at the moment.
Except today,
and you have to excuse my English if the words
perfect.
don't come yet, don't come so easily. Because
How does it work then when you work with the? It's a whole ecosystem. So you also work with the Walloon government, the Flemish government, the French-speaking government, and their Dutch level is not always on par. So in meetings where everybody speaks their own language, do you feel like it sometimes happens that really a lot is lost in translation?
in my experience, not so many. Not so many things are lost in translation. What sometimes doesn't cross borders are more the realities than the language itself. So if we're in a interfederal meeting, sometimes the Flemish will speak about something that is so connected to their own realities that the Walloons will maybe not understand truly what And also me, as a new person in some dossiers, sometimes I'm the one thinking, what are we talking about here? Because I'm also from Wallonia and now from Brussels, but so the Flemish reality is a little bit further from mine at some extent.
Thank you so much, Sandrine. This was really interesting. So there is many points, but I wrote down a few things. One is two casquettes, which I was surprised at the cabinet because that's something I see a lot in administration, that when you switch roles, like you did, first only quote-unquote spokesperson and then now advisor, but you keep the casquette, the hat of the spokesperson. I see that a lot in administration, that people, change roles, but then all of the old dossiers, they come with them, which is sometimes a bit heavy to do, but I see it's the same in the cabinet.
It's just the same, I'd say. And if it's too much, you can just say and someone else will come and help. But yeah.
So not that many differences, but in the end of the day, it's the lots of similarities maybe between being a public service adventurer in an administration or in a cabinet.
Yeah, and what I really take away indeed is also the whole language thing that we are having here in our country, knowing the other one's perspective or reality, that's a bigger issue than just communicating in each other's language.
Yeah,
So
and I wouldn't say issue, I'd say challenge.
a challenge.
Because it's not an issue at the end of the day.
What I liked also is there's a policy which is everybody speaks their own language, but there's no point in enforcing it extremely strictly. Flemish people will sometimes speak French just to be nice, and you will be stubborn and speak Dutch because you decided you're here for that, and that's fine. So it's good to have like an overall principle that everybody speaks their own language, but then just let people do whatever works for them, and then there is no issue. Another thing is that you were really looking for where you can maximize your impact. If I go for policy, I'll have a bigger impact, but actually it is an ecosystem. So that search, and maybe that's very much your generation that is looking for where can I maximize my impact, but it's an ecosystem. So if you look at it, I think it gives some breathing room, less pressure.
Of course, and what does it mean, more impact? You know, you should have impact. If you work in anything public, I think you have impact. The question is, where am I most useful?
Yeah. Thank you for this. The moonshot question?
Can I ask the question?
Go for it.
I can ask the question. The moonshot question. So, we want the Belgian public service to become so good that people will actually be happy to pay their taxes. And what we want to know is, do you think this is feasible? And what would be needed to make it happen in like 10 years from now?
Of course it's feasible. I love paying my taxes. No, I'm deeply optimistic, and I think it is feasible. I think what's missing right now is a general understanding of what the public service is and does. People do not love to pay their taxes because they don't understand where it's going. So it's a mix of communication about what we do when it's good, also when it's less good, being able to acknowledge that, I think, and to show that we're shifting, but mainly communicating and being more transparent about this. But also, of course, creating good policy and making people understand why we do what we do, making them understand that we also listen to what they want. My advice would be to anyone who doesn't love paying their taxes, come and work in the public service. And if you see something that you don't like, change it. If you see something that you like, speak about it.
I love it.
Bravo. Hear, hear. That concludes this episode of the Public Service Adventure Podcasts. We hope it gave you some insights, inspiration to try something out tomorrow, and at the very least that you had a pleasant 20 minutes with us.
If you believe our public services can and should be better, please share this podcast around.
And we would love to get your feedback. You can find us on LinkedIn and on our website, publicserviceadventure.be. Bye-bye.
It's not the music.